So many of us midlife women spend so many years creating a home and an environment for either our partners or just because it was convenient at the time or for our kids. But when we get to our 40s, 50s, and 60s, we need to ask ourselves, does this really support me where I am now? And it's so much bigger than just the house. And we're going to talk about that today. So, on the podcast, we often talk about food and hormones and finding ourselves in midlife. And believe it or not, this relates. We are looking at one of the biggest influences, but it's an underrated influence in our lives. And I'm so excited to introduce to you Kim Costa. Welcome to the Emotional Leads podcast today.
Thank you, Kim. It's so great to be here with you. I'm looking forward to having a great conversation.
I'm excited about it. What are you hoping that women are going to walk away with thinking about what's going on in their lives right now in midlife? What do you want them to feel when they finish up with the episode?
Well, I want them to feel seen because so many times throughout our lives, we are doing everything for everybody else and we're making sure our homes are great for our kids or our partner or our guests and that we look like we're doing everything else everyone else is doing around us. And so I want them to feel seen for who they're meant to be and to create an environment that helps them do that.
Yes. And with your background, I'd love for you to share a little bit of your background and your experience and expertise. And how did that lead into you getting into the deeper levels and layers of finding out what people needed, not just a physical structure and home?
Absolutely. So it really, really started. Both of my parents were human resources executives. And so I grew up hearing about this job was not in so and so's wheelhouse and we had to let them go, or this person is perfect for the job. They're doing great. And I'm so excited to have them on board and et cetera. And so I just grew up hearing about that. So when I became a realtor in midlife, I applied a lot of those, and I also have master's work in human resource development. So as when I became a realtor, I always applied people's potential to how the home would help them with that. So I saw the home's potential as far as how it functioned, not just aesthetically, because aesthetics are great, but people often choose on aesthetics when they should be choosing along lower needs along the Maslow's hierarchy scale. And so I match the people's potential with the home's potential to make sure we get the most out of their next stage of life.
Wow. So using Maslow's hierarchy scale. And when we think about that, we don't always think about all of our needs when we're
Mhm.
choosing a place to live. And one of the things that I love that you talk about is not just the home and everything involved in that, but actually the place, the community, the actual geography of it.
Mhm.
So, how do you know? So, we have women right now are dealing with menopause, empty nesting. They might be dealing with caretaking for their parents or still have grown children that they're worried about. How do we know when our home is not supporting us anymore? What are the red flags that make us think, wow, maybe we should reevaluate what our options are?
Well, it's always some sort of negative emotion. And so it's fear like, okay, what if mom falls again? And I don't want to put her in a home. I don't have enough room here. So you get that anxious feeling that something's not working or you're looking ahead to the future. It could also be loneliness. It could be sadness, frustration. So when you pull up to your house or you walk through the door or you wake up in the morning and you have this kind of tightness in your chest, which is, fear, or if you're angry about something or just lonely, those are signs that something in the home is not working for you. So it's really about clarity at that point. And so my process gives structure around questions to ask yourself in 8 areas to see how your home is currently performing and then looking ahead what you think you might be needing in your next stage, whether you're the sandwich generation, parents and kids. And so it's really an analysis to provide structure to your decision about your home.
The assessment, the
Mhm.
wheelhouse, and you explaining where that word came from. Because if you are in our age range at
Mhm.
all, that's something that we would hear growing up. I don't hear it quite as much now.
Yeah.
but is it in your wheelhouse? And
Right.
back in the day, adults knew exactly what that meant. Is this fitting you? And now you're making it fit in all areas. So
Mm,
let's jump right into the assessment. Will you tell me those 8 areas that
yes.
you're helping people evaluate?
Absolutely. So, finance, everybody has a budget with a home, but it's more than that. It's about building equity and things like that. And then there's health. All of us have health concerns. Environment is, where you live, or the actual is the home open versus broken up. And so there's an interior environment, and then there's an environment like what region of the world or the nation do you live in? Are you at the beach or the mountains or the city or the country? And then your career, what career aspects do you need to have in your home? Romance. Are you partnered, happily single, looking? And how does your home affect that? Fun and leisure. What do you like to do for fun? Spirituality, and that could be yoga. It could be a walk on the beach. It could be meditation. It could also be religion, depending on what you like. And then family and friends is always huge. Who's going to live in the home? How close are your family or how far away? And what kind of needs does everyone have in the home? So those are the 8 areas.
They are 8 separate areas, but wow, are they intercombined in
Very
so many
much.
ways. So we're going to start with environment today.
Mhm.
So let's talk about how can people really decide where they want to live? And I'm going to selfishly throw myself in the mix here.
Good.
We live in Florida.
Mhm.
I didn't grow up in Florida. This is where I ended up because of my first marriage. Luckily, I had found my second marriage, and it's amazing, but Florida has it's a beautiful, it's wonderful, like, walking every single day. I get to be outside every single day of the year, as long as I can deal with the heat and the humidity,
Mhm.
unlike some places that have snow. So what we have chosen to do, a husband in the summers grew up on his grandparents' property in Wisconsin, and that's what we're going to be doing now that we have our last one moving out. I'm a typical person that you talk about. I'm going through this last transition of getting the fourth child to move into his own place and then us getting to decide. But how do we decide? That's a very different. When I go to Wisconsin, we
Mhm.
are out there.
Yeah.
There are not a lot of people. You can't see our neighbors.
Mhm.
We can drive to a little town, but
Mhm.
the environment is different than here where all my friends are. So
Yeah.
what are those little things that you have people look at when they choose? Because it's bigger than, again, the house. It's
It is.
connection, it's everything. So I would love for you to just freely talk about whatever those things are that we should be looking at.
Well, like you said, environment is especially connected to all of the other spokes. So when you're choosing your Wisconsin place, you've chosen it because it was a prior family area, so maybe there's some relatives there. The weather is a little better in the dead of the summer, than perhaps in Florida. And so it's all of that, and it's a little bit of, like, respite, like, maybe you do some reading and some journaling or some writing or production for your show. For you personally, maybe it's going to become a great creative space for you because the environment lends itself to deep thought, less interruptions, and honestly, less friends to call you and say, "Hey, I'm going here, meet me." And so, you're going to find the upside of that part-time, and what a beautiful arrangement. Like, I'm very happy for you that you have both of those worlds, to get the benefits of the environment in Wisconsin, especially in the summer, but then to come back to home. So your summer home is the opposite of all the northerners who it's so cold in the winter, the snowbirds are coming to Florida to get out of the weather, and the environment is just a change of seasons that they can financially they can swing it. They have the empty nest, and so that's friends and family. We've got finance. They're still healthy enough to maintain 2 homes. Career-wise, you most people with a 9 to 5 job wouldn't be able to just go away, for the summer or for the winter for the snowbirds. So all of the other spokes have to align with, will this environment work for me? And so and one spoke affects the other. So You'll find some things that you absolutely love up in Wisconsin, and then there'll be things that you miss in Florida. And guess what? You get to go back. So, what a beautiful arrangement.
Love that you laid that out because you nailed it. Basically, when I'm away, there's a creative spirit that comes out because I have so much more quiet and peace. And
Mhm.
you're right. I don't have friends calling to have coffee every day. We're not texting back and forth as much. In fact, it's nice. Sometimes I don't have reception, and it's funny, we can get into this because I love that you have also brought relationships into this mix, because
Mhm.
if you do have a partner, you're trying to create a space for 2 people, or a family, and I'm
Mhm.
talking mostly midlifers, probably more couples, and
Mhm.
that's an interesting space to be in. We do get the best of both worlds. This is
Mhm.
my husband's dream home,
Yeah.
and it is, I love both, but
Mhm.
I also am very social. Girlfriends are very important to me.
Mhm.
So I think it's really important that we're talking about this because so many women are trying to figure out what's going to make them happy. And when you say that negative energy, we wake up in the morning. Energy is so important. So
Mm.
before we get to energy, let's go back to the partners for a moment. Do
Mhm.
you have any advice for people who are trying to have this conversation with their partner or their spouse, because both need to be happy in the same place
Absolutely.
without one feeling like they're getting dragged to somebody else's desire?
Mhm. Well, I think so. I didn't even mention the romance spoke, but as your children are leaving the nest, and so many of us, because I'm about 5 or 6 years out from that process, and it becomes, I'm in a second marriage as well, and it becomes a new focus on your romantic life because you have time and you aren't carting, 2 or 3 or 4 children around or going to their activities, and the kids have friends in the house, and it becomes a rekindling if you're lucky. Well, it becomes a rekindling, but also to know that once kids leave, oftentimes the woman, it's called, gray divorce. It's like, oh gosh, here I am, and we're trying to rekindle this romance, but it's not there. And so it's such a lovely thing that you have this place in Wisconsin to kind of rekindle your romance and your creativity. And it's a different focus than, the social aspect of perhaps Florida. And, it's kind of a split in the road for many people as their children are leaving is, do we have enough romance left here? And what kind of environment is going to kindle that? Sometimes folks end up selling the big house and they maybe get a condo near the city or in a small town so they can get more social again because everything was about the kids. And let's get too close to an airport because we never got to travel. We had kids, and then that was the next 25, 30 years. Now what do we want to do together? So I think environment plays a role in, that's the next stage of life. How is your environment going to help you achieve that? Traveling with a horse farm, I've experienced this, didn't work very well because you couldn't leave all the animals and you had to have people. So the environment can be a barrier to that success in each spoke, or it can support it. And you just have to look at what you want in your next phase of life.
Powerful.
Mm.
It's funny you said that because we had chickens for the longest time and we have a dog. And I always felt that way. I could never leave. And I didn't want to leave somebody else with the responsibility
Like,
of
I don't know the
my girls.
procedure.
Yeah. We all know what we got to do here, but it's just, and then the dog, if you want to travel, we are taking ours with us. So it's all
Oh,
good.
yes.
He's part of the family if we're going to be gone that long. We mentioned energy before, and I think energy is a really powerful word to
Mm.
use. I feel like there's certain, we could either say draining or giving. And I'd love to hear your perspective on what people can look for as far as how an environment either gives or takes their energy away.
Well, I mean, it's very true, and it has, well, it has as much to do with the outside environment, who's in your neighborhood. Some neighborhoods have a really welcoming feel, and so that's it goes from your town, or rather your state, what's the topography and things like that, to your town, to your neighborhood, to your street, to your home. And all of those have different energies to them. So you can live in a wonderful neighborhood, but your street's a little weird. And I know someone who's experienced that. And they it was just a very odd situation on the street. Won't get into details, but it just made them very uneasy. some of the shenanigans going on the street, and they had young children, and so it kind of soured the whole thing. Now the rest of the neighborhood, which I also happened to live in, was fine, but they just who knew when they picked their house that it was gonna be a strange street, and the energy was just very odd. You can have an odd energy in a house. I've had somebody say to me, I walked in one of my realtor friends, I walked in this home and it just felt like it had bad energy. And I'm trying to move this nice, cute little young couple in there. And wouldn't you know it, I did a little research and like 5 couples had lived in there and all gotten divorced. And so it was just like there's, I don't know, like, and also like how much light comes in the home. Are there is it dirty? Is it cluttered? Is energy kind of blocked and you feel deferred maintenance everywhere in the home, which means signs of a depression or a financial strife or anxiety or just plain old I don't care. It does you can walk in a home and it feels loved and light and the plants are thriving. There's no dead plant in the corner. There's thriving plants and beautiful fabrics, and it does not have to be luxurious, but you can tell that it's cared for. That is energy in a home.
Love that you said deferred maintenance and talking
Mhm.
about clutter.
Yeah.
I've had decluttering experts on and really have gotten into that energy of having too much around that mental fatigue.
Mhm.
And there are some homes that seem to invite that, like the darker, closed off, seems to invite that a little bit almost. And
Mm,
it is true when you see people who are not managing plants or just even having plants is
mhm,
a way to bring life. And there's so many choices we can make to make things feel better. But it's interesting you also brought in, thank you for bringing in the mental health,
mm,
because mental and emotional health can be seen directly in people's habits with their home and whether
mm,
they're able to keep it up or have
mhm,
the desire to keep it up. Do
mhm.
you feel like the opposite is true though too, that maybe there's a home and it's hard to keep up because of just the structure of the home or the way it is?
It can be. I mean, a lot of times out of sight, out of mind. And so if you
Yeah.
have a room that's you can close the door and it's just kind of where you dumped everything where you when you moved in, or your mom passed and you have all her things and you're really sad about it and you're not quite ready to look at all those things yet and you've just put them in a room. It can kind of, the home is the reflection of your soul and your psyche. And so if you it's like having a closed off department of yourself that you're not ready to address. And so it clogs and it's a representative of, maybe open that door and start going through those things. And that is you're repressing your feelings, perhaps. This is just an example. Not everyone does this, but you're repressing feelings by not going through the things and acknowledging and just kind of like, everything's fine. I'm just going to put it in that door, in that room and close the door, and I don't have to deal with it. And many people have rooms like that, but what it is a block to what could be. What could you be using that room for? Could it be a beautiful guest room? Could it be somewhere you start a new podcast? Could it be somewhere you go and do yoga or meditate or, all the other plethora of things that you could be doing in that room? But instead, you're just housing unresolved feelings in a part of your house.
Yes. It took my mother-in-law wanting her bed back
Mhm.
to clean out my son. My son turns 27 today, and he's
Yeah.
been out of the house since college.
Yes.
But it took until her asking for that bed back to realize the potential of the room that I'm actually sitting. It's a very long room.
Neat.
And not only is it my office, fourth of it is my office and podcasting corner, but the rest of it is a gym. And we didn't
Oh,
even realize that when we created that, it would create so much less pressure on us to be getting
yes.
out the door and getting to the gym. It actually slowed us down. We didn't have to add one more thing in. And we also weren't skipping the workouts because we could just come upstairs and do it.
That's right.
And yeah, so it's amazing everything you're talking about. I know every woman who's listening right now is understanding that they're in their mind looking around their home and seeing what's fitting and what's not fitting.
Mhm.
And by the way, I'm going to take a quick break and share with everyone. It would be so amazing if you would follow the Emotional Needs podcast, because when you download the episodes, we reach out to many more. Make sure you're sharing with a friend because you know you've had this conversation with your best friend before. And I so appreciate this conversation. I want to talk about, we're talking about mental and emotional health, but let's talk about physical health and
Mhm.
living in the right space.
Mm.
And we've kind of touched on this about being active or being able to walk out your door safely. What are all the factors for a physically healthy house?
Right. So looking at the spoke of health, let's go up Maslow's hierarchy. So physiological, can you sleep at night or is it noisy? Is there light coming in your bedroom where it wakes you up in the morning and you're a late night person and you're only getting 6 hours of sleep when you really need 7 or 8? So those are physiological needs. Are you able to get organic food close by you? Is your water clean or do you need a house filter? And then you go to safety, going up Maslow's hierarchy. That's the next one up. In health, do you feel safe? Are there people in your area that might cause you harm? Can you walk down the street or to your car feeling safe? In your home, is everyone safe? Do you feel safe within your home? And then the next one up is love and belonging. So that as far as it relates to health, that would be more of a mental health issue because love and belonging, happiness is shown to improve your health in spades, your blood pressure, how you sleep at night, just your general well being. And then esteem, really that's getting up into as it relates to health, like feeling good and positive. And as you move up to like feelings of joy, you're joyful about your house, your friends are close by, you feel good about your station in life. That's a higher energy field than feeling stuck. That's a very low energy field. And then cognitive, are you learning? Are you keeping your brain healthy? Are you staving off any cognitive loss, degeneration there? Are there spaces within your community you can go try a new thing? Is there somewhere in your home that you can read or like you're doing, meet people on Zoom or Riverside for a podcast? And then aesthetic is the final one. What are your favorite colors? Are you like I love my greens and my golds and my rose colors, or are you really intrigued by the cooler colors? Do you like natural elements in your home like wood, marble, greenery? Biophilic type of decorations are proven to increase your health within your home. Do you have good views? Are you near the beach? All that kind of thing. So going up from bottom to top, all of those considerations in the area of health provide for a better living
I'm
environment.
so glad you brought up the colors because there has been a phase that all of my friends went through. And you can imagine living near the beach. We have a real coastal feel for
Yeah,
many
blues
homes,
and the
which I love and it fits my friends. Then the gray phase, and
ugh,
that love it, fits my friends.
yes,
But my husband and I were dying for some color.
yes.
And our living room, we went from when he moved in, we remarried right not too long after he moved into the house. It
Mhm,
was brown and just
mhm,
wasn't, the earth tone just wasn't for me. And it was a closed in room,
mm,
brick fireplace, beautiful. Like for
mm.
Florida to have a real fireplace is a big deal
Absolutely.
anyway. But when we decided to change things over, people thought we were crazy because we picked this yellow and then we painted the fireplace white, all the brick
Mm,
white, and we did white trim and he did molding. And I can't tell you how differently I feel. Change the furniture, our thrift store, because our kids were crazy. So we didn't even bother getting the white leather couches until the last one, the last kid. We're like, and threatening him with his life if he did anything to it. So walk in and I see white and yellow. My mood at the end of the day when I walk in, it's true that that can
mm,
make a difference because it changes my entire outlook on getting to hang out in there. Do
yeah.
you find that color does that for people? Or do people just, do they kind of feel forced into trends? What are you seeing?
I do feel as though many, many people were forced into the entire white kitchen trend and the cool gray. I actually have a cool gray on my walls. I will be changing that within the next year because I'm like more of a warm colored person. So, yeah, I can see I have pink. chairs over there. So I can see me bringing some kind of accent over here. Anyway, I digress. But it really does matter because I'm like, I have a warm light on right now and it changes a little bit the color of the wall, but it's really a cool gray, which is not my, looks fabulous on my husband. My husband has those piercing blue eyes and he's kind of a tan Italian guy with blue eyes. And he looks wonderful in these colors. He too bought the home before we met, or just as we were meeting, he was moving in, and we met shortly after. So had zero influence on the paint colors. So slowly, like I
Yes,
have my pink
same.
chairs and I have warm wood over here in front of me. And I do have a green plant that I'm blocking, but like I love the warm colors. And I don't notice it every day, but I mean, everything else around me is warm, but this paint color needs to change because it's not, I would never wear this color. It doesn't look good on me. And that makes me feel
Yes.
like this is not a it's like every time I get on a Zoom, I'm like, I really need to change my wall color. And I don't think about it until I sit down and see myself against it. And I'm like, that totally doesn't fit me. So, yes, I think color is really important. And I'm very focused on color, but I think people have been forced into the white and gray when it doesn't actually look good on them. And so, why surround yourself in a home with colors that don't even match you?
Such a good point when you think about what you would wear. My
Yes.
husband is blonde, blue eyed,
Yeah.
a little gray, blonde, blue eyed now. Same as your husband, the
Mhm.
grays, the blues. He looks great in the
Cool.
lighter blues, even. In
Hmm.
fact, I'm wearing black today for those
Yeah.
of you who are only listening to the audio, but I normally wear like a deep purple or an orange or a red. Those
Love
are
it.
and yeah, those are the colors that I am gravitating toward. And you can tell I love the
Hmm.
plants.
Hmm.
Same. So I really that makes me feel, and I hope other people feel validated
Hmm.
in just doing what makes you happy. Nobody else has to walk in your house every single day.
That's right.
So
Yeah.
enjoy that. You know what I would also love to ask you? You made a comment because I did listen to your podcast and I a comment wanted to bring up two things. You said your environment should match your energy, not your image. And I
Mm.
would love for you to expand on that.
Oh, totally. I love this topic. So I am fascinated with personality theory. And so there's MBTI, there's Enneagram, there's DISC, there's so many personality tests you can take. I for simplicity, I use the MBTI, the Myers-Briggs for my book. I'm an ENFP, which is extroverted, intuitive, feeling and perceptive. Like I'm a total creative. I'm a right-brained person. And I need equal parts introverted and extroverted spaces. And so if I'm talking to people all day and I'm very driven and I'm a great negotiator and I'm pretty high energy in my job, however, that takes all of my extroverted energy. And then when I come home at night, I'm kind of a different person. There's my outward facing personality, which is very energetic. And like, I'm going to go to town for my people and I want my people to reach their potential. And we need this house and we need this price, blah, blah, blah. So I do all that. But when I come home, I just want to cook in the kitchen with some soft music. And I
Mhm.
need pillows and blankets and a book. And like I listened to Enya the other day, which is very low key.
Nice and soft.
Very I really needed my Enya because I was heavily negotiating all day for like 3 days in a row. And so, when people walk in my home, they might be surprised at how soft it is. And my office has pink chairs and flowers on the wall, and it's like, "Wow, is she too nice to negotiate for me?" So, there is an energy that you have outside your home, but your home should be the respite that refuels you to be your public persona. And so when people walk in, you'll have some elements of things that represent your outward self, but it really should represent your true self that when you're not on, you come home and refuel.
Is so powerful. Ladies, I hope you re-listen to that because your home can really help you refresh, renew, calm your nervous system. I'm very similar in the aspect that I'm very extroverted when I need to be on,
Mhm,
clearly for
mhm.
podcasting. And I'm talking to people all day, going live on social media. But as soon as I get home and I shut that door behind me, I don't even love running into the neighbors with my dog. I love my neighbors. If
Yes.
that was in the morning, it'd be totally different. But at the end of the day, it is quiet. I feel very introverted.
Yes.
But I am more the analytical, so I still my brain is going on the details. I love that you mentioned this though, because our home is set up where there was a neighborhood that I lived in when my kids were younger that was wonderful, that everybody saw each other at the mailbox at the end of the day and everybody talked and the kids played in the cul-de-sac. That was all good and well. I live in a home now that fits me where I drive down a gravel road and I don't see anybody. And
Mm,
I love people, but I love not having to have a conversation at the mailbox when I'm trying to
yes.
go in and make dinner and hang out. So the Enya, I relate to that so much. And thank you. So, women, I hope you're listening and you're thinking about what matches your true needs at the end of the day.
Mhm.
And there's something else that you said, geography, because we talked about Wisconsin, Florida, wherever anybody wants to live. You even mentioned mountains versus beach. Geography is not just a backdrop.
Mm.
What do you mean by that?
Well, really, if you like to hike, then, even some rolling hills, some wooded area, you know, and you want the sunlight, but you just kind of want it filtered through the trees and there maybe near some water. For me, that's my favorite. I have some little hiking trails around here that are near water and a bunch of green. That is my personality. I refuel in nature. So that's kind of the spiritual side of me. So I have probably 3 walking trails, but I'm also a half extrovert. So geography wise, I used to live on a farm, probably about 10 miles north of where I live now that was very remote. I could not see another person. That was too much. I was also an accountant at the time. So I wasn't talking to people, and that geography did not work for me. It might work for me now that I talk to people all day, but when I was an accountant, I could not wait to go to the grocery store, which was 10 miles away, unfortunately. So that geography was not helpful to me, my extroverted side. Now that I speak with people, I do live in a little town called Crabapple that's in between 3 bigger towns that have these cute little downtowns with, like, I'm going to meet a girlfriend for dinner tomorrow evening in Alpharetta, and then, my husband and I will go to Roswell, and we'll sit outside and watch the people go down, like, the old town, the old-timey town, and so I can go do that anytime I want, so that geography is important to me. I also like the beach. I'm driving to the beach this weekend for a wedding, and it will take me 4.5 hours to get there. So it's doable for a long weekend. So if I lived more towards Nashville, that would not be possible to drive for a long weekend to go to the beach. So geography is about what makes you happy. What do you like to do? And the weather, and the accessibility to other things that you like to do. It has a huge part to play.
Absolutely. I'm laughing as you said because I am very blessed to be in a town that has a beautiful historical downtown. St.
Mhm.
Augustine has so much, and I actually do the opposite of what other people do. I get up really early and go downtown so that I can look at all the houses and everything while
Yes.
I'm running and walking. And then we also have the beach. But
Mhm.
in Wisconsin, I actually don't have a lot of simulation. I have one friend. We have a couple and their family that are friends of ours. And so I take off and I do the opposite and look for my extroverted dates where I'll drive into the town, which is probably at
Yes.
least 10 miles away, and I will go to the coffee shop and just be around people. I don't
Yes.
necessarily know these people, but I'll work in the coffee shop to have that feeling of being around people.
That is
So, yeah, and like you said, the accessibility, though, coming back to what people are looking for. And I think that's a question that has been on my mind too throughout our conversation is we can go out and we can look for what we want that fits us. But what if you're in a situation where you really cannot do that? How can you help yourself create what you need in a space that you have to be in because you can't leave?
right. Well, I mean, thank goodness now, just a few examples. So if you need to fill your social battery, and at least thankfully we have Zoom and we have got, these types of communications now. So have a space in your home where you can hop on a group call with other women who like to do crafts or, your people. Find a tribe, that you can get on calls with and bring that into your home. or if there's a town close by that you can go to a meeting, either it could be a religious meeting, it can be a yoga center, it can be a gym. So you have to kind of search those out a little more. But if you're kind of in your home, technology helps. But also, create a little corner for yourself where you can get online and learn something about history, or if you love you know, all things British, which who doesn't, right? Have a place that you can read British books about Great Britain and things like that. So it's a little more challenging if you are stuck at home, but you have to use technology. And if you love the beach but you're stuck in Kansas, make a room with a beach theme until you can get back to where you want to be. I know, I mean, people here in Atlanta, I used to giggle a little bit because I love the beach. And I now have a room and it's got like a coral lamp and, beachy colors in it because I love that. Although I haven't gotten to the beach in probably 9 months, and so I'm very much looking forward to this weekend. But that kind of fills my soul until I can get a beach house and or just go more often. Yeah.
We have a lot more power over this than we think we do. We really, really do. I also heard you talk about, so let's say we have the structure of the house
Mhm.
and you have a phrase stay, go, reno. And what exactly does that mean?
So, as you take the wheelhouse assessment, you're going to be grading your current living situation in 8 different areas. And the wheel, you want an inflated wheel at the end. You want, 7, 8, 9, 10 would be an inflated. You don't want a flat tire because that makes life bumpy. So, you want to travel through life with an inflated tire for your environment. So, if everything's pretty good with the structure of the home and the location, and you've got 7, 8, 9, tens for most of your areas, then you're probably going to stay and maybe tweak a few things regarding the function or the decor of your home. But if the home structure, the location's great and you don't want to move anywhere, you love your neighborhood, you love your town, but the house just lacks a couple of spaces, maybe you're going to do a reno, or you're going to finish out the basement, or switch the function of a room. So that's the reno part. And then go is move. Like, so you've got a flat tire and at least one of your areas is around a 2 or a couple of areas are 3s, and you feel as though a move is a good choice, then that's the stay, go, or reno piece of it.
So before we send everybody to you, I would love to know, is there anything I missed? What else would you like to share with women as we're closing?
Gosh, okay. I really feel it's important to acknowledge that everyone, if you have a family, everyone needs to be recognized in the home for who they actually are. Sometimes the extroverts in a family will run the show, and then the introvert has nowhere to sit quietly, and people are intruding upon their space, or the creative doesn't have anywhere to keep their projects, etc. So just recognize that everyone is made differently, and they're most likely not doing things habitually to annoy you. It's just how their brain works. So give them a little grace, and also give yourself some grace if you have given up your soul and personality in favor of doing things for your family. Carve out a place in your home that is just for you. And go, maybe wake up early and go there if you still have a house full of children, or and if you're by yourself, take over the whole place and put your mark on everything and just use that room that's not being used for something that brings you joy.
Such beautiful advice. So, Kim, you mentioned the wheelhouse assessment. Where can everyone find the quiz and find more information about you? And of course, you have to talk about the podcast.
Sure. Okay, so the best place to find me is my website, which is lifestylefoundations with an S.com. You can get a lifestyle lift assessment there, which is a 10-minute quiz that you bring through your house. You can also order my book there and get some great freebies like a master class. And then I'm also on my podcast, which is also Live in Your Wheelhouse. So I'll start having guests on soon, and first season just finished up, and I'm getting ready to start season 2.
And thank you so much. You have achieved what you set out to do at the beginning. I know women are going to be feeling very seen and heard, especially as you talk about the different personalities, because everyone has a different way that they want to exist. And either I love the extrovert conversation, the introvert conversation, the creative, and just finding yourself and understanding what makes you happy and fills your needs at the end of the day and what kind of home will do that for you. So thank you so much for being here today. I appreciate you.